Hi, good morning, everyone. This is the first live we do in person with the amazing Angela,
Yay.
and she's and she's a nutritionist and a nutritionist health coach. Angela came from a busy corporate background, and she decided more needs to be done to help people with their health. And this is when she qualified and decided to take that route to help people like you, like me, to change their life, turn it upside down, and make it awesome all over again, health wise. Angela, over to you. Please give an introduction of yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Julie, for inviting me for your first YouTube live. And so excited to be here. I love doing
So are
lives.
we.
Yeah, cool. I'm super excited about that. I love interacting with people, answering questions, because I believe that's where, the very important part of my work is to help people to understand better food and nutrition and to guide them on their journey. And as a nutritionist, nutrition and health coach, I work with people and I help them to change their habits around food, around health, around healthy lifestyle, so they could feel and look amazing today and many years from today. Today's world, especially the world of food, is so confusing. People always tell me, there are so many claims. People say this is good,
Definitely.
and then the next day this is bad. So, how do I figure out what to eat? Protein, fats, carbs. What do I count? How much I need?
Exactly.
All of this. So people are overwhelmed, and I'm trying to do my best work to help them to understand it better and to implement it in their life. That is, of course, very important.
And that's amazing, because also with the busy lifestyles everybody has, it almost becomes impossible to, we're all here about self-care and eating better and all of this, but sometimes it's so hard to navigate that world. And for someone like you who studied this, or someone like me who works with this on a daily basis, we might know what's good and what's bad from first sight, but for someone who's never looked at nutrition, and suddenly they're told, oh, you have this or you have that, and you need to change your lifestyle, it can be so daunting and intimidating.
Yeah, I totally agree. Especially, and I think, that's why people like to gravitate to certain diets, because
it's kind of prescribed for them.
It's kind of a shortcut. Well, what do I do to eat healthier? Well, I don't know anything about nutrition, but it seems that people, on plant-based diet or on keto diet seems to be doing better. So maybe I try this. And so people read a book and then try to implement, to the best of their ability that knowledge.
Exactly. I remember we had a neighbor who was trying to do keto diet, and she came to me and she was just pulling her hair out and she was saying, I can't lose any weight. This keto thing is not working for me. It works for all humans except for me. And I said, okay, show me what you're eating and what you're not eating. And she for her, keto meant fried bacon, cheese, full fat cream all the time. And I was thinking, okay, I mean, okay, if you want to eat that, okay, if that floats your boat, go for it. But what about some green vegetables? What about some fiber in your diet? And it still won't affect the carbs. You can choose the right ingredients that won't affect the carb count. But for me, it was a disaster, because not only did she not lose weight, she ended up in worse health than where she started. And I think also, unfortunately, but unlike peanuts, and I always say this, probably the guys on the live heard me say this a million times, but whenever I'm talking about keto or sugar-free or low carb, I always say, when you buy something with peanuts on it, it says contains peanuts. And if you buy peanut oil, it will still say contains peanuts. But it's just so disheartening how in the keto world and low carb world, a lot of products claim to be keto, claim to be low carb. And then you look at them and they have ingredients that are nowhere near keto or low carb. And it's a big difference if you buy a slice this big and the slice has 2 grams of carb, and then something claims to be keto and it's literally this big. And it's like, guys, this is a bite. It better have 2 grams of carb, because any more and it would be made of sugar. So it's almost heartbreaking to see how some people are trying to make the industry look safe and, oh yes, keto, our products are keto, but unfortunately they're not, or they're keto, but they have such nasty ingredients. They're very toxic long-term. So yeah, this is why we need people like you.
Yeah, thank you.
To educate the world. We need people like me to supply the world.
Exactly. one thing is when I tell people, how to do it better, what to do, certain tips, advice, but then a whole nother, challenge is how do I now implement it into my real life? What do I eat now?
Exactly.
And if it wasn't for, people like yourself who are so passionate about the lifestyle, who create products to make this lifestyle easy, it would be really, really difficult for most people to do it.
And if it's not for you, educating people one-to-one, because it's one thing to read a book that's written by an author based on their experience, but it's another thing to have a coach one-to-one to tell you, you know what, I understand your lifestyle, I understand your health challenges. Let's see what works with you in this aspect. And this is where I see coaches like you and people who work one-to-one like you so useful. You can give a piece of advice to a whole room of people, but it won't apply to everyone in that room. But one-to-one, it's definitely going to work for people.
Yeah, and I think the power in coaching is in that I personalize that advice. So I can tell someone, okay, you need to eat more fiber, right, for the gut. But if one person will hear that and will start eating more vegetables, another person will hear that and they would go and get or go and get like this sugary cereal that says fiber on it and heart healthy, but I'm not sure what's like heart healthy in it. It's probably low fat for some, it's heart healthy. Like everyone has a different definition of what is healthy or what more fiber even means.
Definitely.
So that's where coaching is so valuable. It helps you to personalize any advice, and because I, for example, have a background and education in nutrition, so I actually know the science and help people to navigate that. Whereas when you read a diet book, you start to understand maybe some things better, but you still don't have any science
and
background.
It might not apply to you.
Exactly.
For example, I totally believe in low carb and keto, but again, it's been discussed in other lives. A lot of people do intermittent fasting. When one time I forgot one of my meals, I was too busy and I forgot to eat my meal. The next thing we know, because I'm type 1 diabetic, I ended up in hospital with ketoacidosis. So nobody would advise someone like me to have intermittent fasting. But unfortunately, a lot of diabetics follow keto and they think, oh, maybe I can do intermittent fasting, and things can get nasty if it's not personal advice based on what that person needs.
Exactly. Like intermittent fasting for me works perfectly. Like I love it. It's no problem for me.
Adrian did it 4 days in a row before, and he was happy. He was fine.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. But if somebody exactly comes with maybe some sort of diabetes or other metabolic issue, and their body is just, not yet maybe adapted to that or even meant to do that, again, because maybe blood sugar, because maybe something else, like
hypertension
or electrolyte imbalance that they can experience more than others, or for example, somebody who is like, sometimes I get questions from teenagers, like intermittent fasting isn't for them really, because you're still growing. You're still, your body has more needs than of an average human being of adult, and you don't really know what those needs are because every growing organism is different. So
definitely
there is a lot of personalization. You're right. So yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
And this is why we need amazing people like you. So guys, if you want to follow Angela, you'll find her details at the bottom. We'll also have her on Instagram, so you can follow her through our stories and posts and everything. I personally found her work fascinating. She doesn't know this, but I've been stalking her for weeks.
Thank you, Julie.
You're welcome. Thank you for the amazing value. And her Instagram is amazing. If you want the little tips and all of this, she does great videos, great stories and everything. So do follow her. And we're going to get started because I see more questions coming in. We already have a few questions other than the ones we had raised through Instagram. Guys on the live, if you want to send us any more questions, feel free to send it through any channel, even if it's Instagram, even if it's Facebook, through YouTube, anywhere, through the live directly. If you send it through the live, we'll read it. If you send it through any other channel, it will come to us through one of our team members. So first question, can you explain? Oh, and by the way, even if you think your lifestyle is hectic, it's too crazy, it's too this, it's too that, Angela is the woman for you, because Angela specializes in working with professionals. And as someone who worked in the corporate world and got totally burnt out at some point, I can tell you she really knows what she's doing. So She's the right person for this
Thank
kind
you,
of question.
Julie. And on that point, actually, that's why I started to create videos that no longer than 1 minute, reels on Instagram.
Exactly.
Because the feedback I got from people was like, I love your content, but can you make it shorter and shorter and shorter?
I can't watch any video over 1 minute. This is my rule. Even Adrian jokes about it, because I go into YouTube to see a video that a friend sent, and if the video says like anything more than 3 minutes, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll watch it. I'll watch it one day when I have time, which never happens.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one of the reasons I love your videos, and really well done on that.
Thank you, Julie. And let's get to the question.
So your first question: can you explain what is the psychology behind bad eating habits?
Yeah, it's a great question. Most of us, we had or have some eating habits that are kind of like disordered. They might necessarily be bad, but they are not what works the best for us. Right?
Not balanced for us.
Yeah, yeah, they deliver results that is not that does not optimize for our lifestyle, right? So, for example, if somebody wants to stay in good health, great energy levels, but they eat foods that lower their energy levels, or they make them put on weight, that eating, they probably want to change this habit, and they would consider it bad eating habit that they constantly overeat, or they consume certain foods that they know don't work for their body, right? For another person, eating the same kind of foods once in a while, it might be not such a bad habit. So again, it's very relative. But why usually we have this, and even though we want to stop them, we keep, doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So number one reason I found with most of my clients is we use food and eating as a coping mechanism. So for example, we feel stressed, we don't know what to do, we feel overwhelmed, we want to change our state. So we use food because food instantly changes our biochemistry.
Chemicals.
Yeah, exactly.
It's chemicals.
It changes how we, think, how we feel, how we physically feel. And it's actually a normal thing, because when we were kids, what our parents would do, you cry, they'll feed you, the candy or healthy food, but still, a lot of times it's like you cry and you get fat. And that's the mechanism we develop. We feel uncomfortable, we turn to food. That's like common for almost all people.
Yeah.
And so as adults, one of the things that we need to work on is develop other coping mechanisms. So when we feel, again, anxious, stressed, overwhelmed, sad, or happy, we need to figure out how to experience those emotions and deal with them without any substances, not just food, but anything. For some people it's alcohol, for some people it's cigarettes, and food just one of those.
For some people it's salt in the food.
Yeah, you never know. For somebody, maybe
I'm having such a bad day, give me more salt.
Again, different people develop different mechanisms. And so when I start working with people, I'm like, okay, first I'm kind of like investigator. I'm looking at the patterns. Okay, over the weekend, a person shows me their food diary, and they always have some alcohol or overeat a lot. I'm like, okay, so let's investigate what's happening before that day or before that.
Right, what triggers that kind of reaction?
What's happening after? And so one example is, what happens to a lot of people. People work throughout the whole week really hard. They don't schedule any downtime. They don't schedule any activities that will lower their stress levels. And at the end of the week, they feel so exhausted, so overwhelmed. They feel like they need to let it all go, let it all out. And food is just a thing that allows them to slow down, to relax, to disconnect, to numb
change their chemistry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's just a coping mechanism. Nothing wrong about it. It's just something that people develop. And then so as a coach, I start, okay, so you have this pattern. So let's look at what you do through the week and introduce, maybe small breaks or maybe some downtime every single day. Or maybe we'll schedule some activity that will help you to relax without food. Like for somebody, it can be some active sport. For somebody else, it can be, going to sauna or taking a massage, and then see how you feel after that. And a lot of times what would happen is this pattern of using food to manage stress will slowly go away. It will fade, and after a while, people I don't even know why I had this, bad habit before. And this happened to me also. Like I used to, every time I would feel, I don't know, sad or stressed or overwhelmed, I would eat a lot of food.
Yeah.
But then once I learned how to work with that, like I just can't do it anymore. Like I can't overeat.
You understand the fallacy of it as well.
Yeah. So that was a revelation for me, and that's what happens to a lot of people, having those bad habits. Just they need to develop better coping strategies or stress management strategies.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, what I have to say about, can you explain what is the psychology behind bad eating habits? I totally agree with the part where you said it comes also from childhood and being soothed through food. And also, I think it's about eating habits because, for example, we were discussing this a few days ago, and I was saying to a friend of mine, like, if I want to try something, low carb, high carb, whatever it is, I'm going to have a bite of it. Or even our muffins. We were talking about Yumzy muffins. And I was saying, as much as I know they're low carb and everything, I can't eat more than half a muffin at a time because of the high protein. It fills me up. Even if I'm hungry, just the flavor is so intense. I will just enjoy half a muffin. And my friend was saying, no, if I have 3 muffins in front of me, I would eat them all. And I was trying to understand, but why? If you get the intense flavor and the satisfying flavor, why do you need to eat 3? And she was saying, I'll even replace my food with muffins if needed. And we just couldn't understand the concepts. And she was saying when she was growing up, they had a problem where, for example, food wasn't always available. And she was saying, like, if there was food on the table, it all had to be finished. And I was saying, funny enough, when we were growing up, we grew up with enough food, but sometimes you couldn't buy food, even if you had money, because of the country we grew up in. It had hardships and political issues and all of this. And I was saying, like, we still learn to savor things rather than like demolish everything on the table. And it's just amazing because she's very health oriented and everything, but for her that has been a real struggle. And she constantly, if you put anything in front of her, it has to be finished to the last drop. And she would struggle, like, even when she visits us, not with COVID, but before COVID, whenever she used to visit us, I literally would put half something in front of her and say, that's yours, that's mine, and that's it. I wouldn't leave the table until I finished mine, just in case she eats mine as well. And she understands that, but she also, it's just too deep in her subconscious that if there is food available, it needs to be finished. That's it. So yeah, childhood does play a huge role in that. Also the upbringing and
and then again, just managing your stress without
stress as a coping mechanism. Definitely. Cool. So guys, whoa, look at all these comments. So let's see if you have any questions. It's so nice to hear from you, Zar. It's so nice to hear from you, TCG. And TCG again, nice to see you there. And we got a few questions indeed. So a friend asked the following question on a personal page on Facebook. I'm vegan, but I struggle to get my proteins up and lower my carbs. Can I go first?
Yes.
Sorry, this is my... So, I mean, I'm talking from a point of view of Yumzy, from a point of view of somebody who's doing this. I'm not vegan. We are a vegan business, but I don't eat meat. I don't eat dairy. I don't drink milk. I don't touch any of this. So if you want to call me vegan, go for it. But I don't call myself vegan. But as someone who's trying to do this, your best friend is going to be things like chia seed. And you'd be surprised. A lot of plants also have a lot of protein. So always look at the nutritional values. Always look at what you're looking at. Try not to go down the rabbit hole of like protein powders that are vegan and all of this, because unfortunately they have things you don't want in your body. So try to look at nuts, try to look at chia seeds, try to look at all of these things, because before I knew much about nutrition, I knew these things were my go-to protein sources, and they are low carb. And I mean, come on, the Aztecs built their pyramids. The Mayans built their pyramids based on chia seed and cacao. So this is something we should really look at. And before we had all the current options available, plants and hunting animals were our choices. But as a vegan, I'm sure you'll find what you need through plants as well. And over to you, Angela. You can give more specific information rather than just experience from me.
It's a great answer. The question was about protein, right?
So the question was more about upping the proteins and lowering the carbs, because a lot of protein mixes and things like that, unfortunately, they do come with high carbs. And when they don't, they have a lot of artificial things. So
So I worked with a few clients who are 100%, plant-based. So a lot of people don't like the term vegan, but yeah, plant-based.
Plant-based. I prefer that,
and
actually.
a couple of women, they are also into building muscle, staying clean, and also trying to keep their carbs low. And so even though, chia seeds would have, more, for example, amino acids or proteins per serving, for most people, what would be more doable, good quality soy products like tofu or tempeh,
Right. Oh, yeah,
that were naturally fermented, they are actually the highest in protein and the complete protein, meaning all the amino acids that human body needs. For example, soy has. That's why it's so loved by vegans, around the world.
Obviously, without MSG, avoid the ones with that.
Yeah, just look for naturally fermented, because fermentation is a process when, those bacteria that are good for our gut, they ferment proteins and different anti-nutrients in soy and make them more bioavailable, make them more gut friendly for human beings, and they make proteins more available, right? For example, if you take something like chia seeds or nuts and seeds, they have a lot of fibers, a lot of anti-nutrients, basically things that prevent us from absorbing those proteins and other nutrients.
So really?
So it's harder to get it from those sources, plus the fat content. If somebody, for example, want to watch their calories as well, seeds and nuts are very, high in calories.
Small proportions,
but and so that's when, things like tofu, like naturally fermented, or tempeh, even better, can be really beneficial for people on a plant-based diet. And then, protein powders might not be the ideal thing because they do not require chewing, this whole digestive process. But there are some good ones that are made, from rice and peas, sometimes from soy, sometimes from
I heard about
seeds.
the pea ones. I heard about that.
Pea and rice is actually, when they combine together, they have the full amino acid profile. So complete.
And they're still low carb?
Most of them are low carb, if there are no added sugars, obviously.
Right.
Because they eliminate most of the starch. They actually
right. So although it's made of rice, they remove the starch that's involved with that. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so that's what
I'll have to look at these again.
I even, inspired by my vegan clients, I tried to incorporate more tofu and tempeh, just because, sometimes you want to eat fish, like for me, for example, but sometimes you want to stay more plant-based, and so incorporate those too.
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. And the next question we have is, what can we do to reduce or even some of our eating disorders, such as binge eating or eating too little? We kind of touched on that earlier, but let's answer the question directly.
Yes. So for most people, again, any sort of disordered eating is a coping mechanism. Like, you got to figure out what triggers that, that instance when you overeat or you binge, or why do you want to undereat? Like, why do you feel like you need to restrict yourself so much? For a lot of people, restricting themselves, it's a lot about control. Like, people feel they can't control a lot of things in their life, but at least this they can control. And so you get super intense on controlling their food intake. For some people, if, for example, someone was growing up and there was an issue with weight, maybe their parents, maybe somebody else who they really admire.
Colleague shaming, or
exactly. So now they are kind of like shy about their body, or maybe they don't like their body that much because of all these negative things that they heard, maybe growing up. Especially when we grow up, we absorb and soak in things
definitely,
much more, and so that can be a powerful trigger for a lot of people. But then also, some of those overeating, binge eating behaviors are from not having nutritionally balanced diet. Like, for example, a lot of my clients come to me and they're like, well, I'm kind of good for breakfast, for lunch, but then on dinner, it's a shit show. I just order and eat whatever is inside. And I look at their meal plan and they're like, for breakfast, they might have a coffee and a bagel, or maybe an egg in good, on a good morning. For lunch, they might have like some salad, maybe a piece of protein, maybe not, maybe some vegetables, maybe not. And then for dinner, of course, their body, their brain, they're so hungry because you've got no nutrition, almost no protein, almost no vitamins and
the
minerals.
body, I remember we even sent this in our newsletter. You need your weight times 2 in grams for protein as a minimum. So skipping protein altogether, that's a disaster.
But not just protein, protein kind of people start
also
getting.
Fats and
fats
proper
and
acids.
fiber, also we have 100 trillions of bacteria of different organisms in our gut. They need to be fat. Their food is fiber. They're not going to be getting that. Probably they're going to make you hungry.
And to clean the stomach as well.
Yeah, exactly. To move it through. And then also vitamins and minerals. For example, somebody eats a diet that is deficient in any of the essential nutrients, and we have like 30 of them, then the only way the brain can tell you that you're not getting that is hunger. There is no like, oh, you need to eat strawberries for vitamin C. No, the brain not going to say that.
Hunger and mood swings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where also a lot of disordered eating, patterns and behaviors people experience. Once we like change people's meal plan, and I make sure that there is everything they need, at least, from our knowledge right now as a, scientific community. Once we do that, a lot of people like, I don't know what happened, what you did, but I have no hunger. Like I just forget to eat sometimes. Yeah. And I'm totally okay with that.
Because the body is well fed.
Exactly. Yeah. So that doesn't raise this alarm or feed me, or you're going to die.
Feed me or I'm going to abuse you mentally until you feed me.
Exactly.
Torture you. Cool. So another question we had from before is, what are the negatives of a keto diet? What? If you're doing it right, what negatives are you talking about?
That's exactly, the thing, right? Doing it right.
Because I know, but doing it right is so difficult nowadays with everybody calling their products keto.
And not just keto, but any diet.
I know.
There is no diet that is like, there is a way to do it right and there is a way to do it wrong. Whether there's keto, plant-based, paleo, some people go carnivore, there are all kinds of diets. And you can do it right and you can do it wrong.
And I think it also depends a lot on the person's personality. And for example, I'm the kind of person who goes cold overnight. So for example, I wanted to before I started doing low carb and all of this in my teens, early 20s, it looks so far away now. I tried something called the acid alkaline diet. And I'm a huge fan of that. But when I tried it, there was no one to advise me. I didn't have an amazing coach like Angela, and no one advised me, don't do it overnight because you will end up having like the keto flu. You're going to end up having a horrible alkaline flu. And the next thing I woke up with like things like bubonic plague. And I was in really bad shape. And then I finally spoke to the person who recommended it. And I said, I think I'm dying. This is meant to make me feel healthier. And they said, look, you can continue doing this for 3 weeks and your body will go through hell, or you can try and alter it. So you try and be 50% alkaline. Then after 2 weeks, make it 60% alkaline. Then after 2 weeks, make it 70% alkaline and incrementally increase it. But for example, someone doing keto as well, a lot of people go and start doing keto and say, oh, I'm having horrible keto flu, but your body needs to adjust. And you also need to do things like electrolytes, all of these things, which your body was getting before, but might not get it. So I think we should discuss 2 elements here. The negatives of keto diet based on doing it right or wrong, and also the negatives based on jumping into it without taking it slow. And with any diet, really, not just keto, as you said.
That's, what I'm trying to always tell my clients or my followers that, well, first of all, I'm not a fan of any diet anymore. Like I used to be one or the other, but what I mean by that is no matter what diet approach you choose, how you call it, there are still certain requirements that you need to meet as a human being. Like meaning, your proteins, but it's not even the biggest for most people these days, like who I work with. And also, again, getting enough fiber and getting the right kind of fiber, because then there is like insoluble, soluble, and they're used for different purposes in the body. Then we have, fatty acids, like not all fat is created equal. Some is essential, meaning we need to eat it to for our body to create, cellular membranes or hormones, and some fats are not essential. Like, for example, olive oil. Yeah, it's all healthy, but it's non-essential. Meaning, if you never eat your olive oil, you're going to be just fine. You know, whereas something like omega-3s, if you never eat them, you're going to be feeling shitty really soon. I'm sorry if I'm burning it.
It's okay. We're rated, guys. This is 18 and above, 15 and above. I don't know, for spring 12 and above. It's okay. I think kids swear nowadays. It's all right. Just PG. Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, that's the thing, you know, that I don't like about keto, and how, you know, wrong can where it can go wrong is people like, oh, I'm just gonna eat fat, like, you know, you mentioned, you know, sour. What was like,
and God knows the types of fat some people eat.
Or for example, what I like to call these days yellow fat in a bottle. You know, those fats that are extracted from like soy or cottonseed or corn and canola, and then they are used to cook food at high temperatures, you know, and the fat gets oxidized. So this kind of fat is really bad. Like every time I eat in a restaurant, because of that, I get a headache. It doesn't matter what I eat. If it's cooked in this oil at high temperature, I'm going to get a headache. So
we actually don't have any of these oils at home because we know how bad they are. We just, even like, I don't even use them for things like skin or cuts. No, coconut oil is the only oil we have at home.
That's, you know, that's the thing, you know, you got to know the details.
Definitely.
So that's, you know, fats, not all fat created equal, you know, some you need, some you don't, and some is totally, some is poisonous. Another thing, you know, vitamins and minerals, like when I look at people's food diary and I analyze it, a lot of people are missing like things like zinc, iron, calcium, magnesium, you know, vitamin D or vitamin A, and there's again about 30 of essential vitamins and minerals. That is, in theory, we would get it if we were to eat a whole range, a whole variety of whole foods. But because our food system right now is so full of refined products of all kinds, then people just eat all of this and get very unbalanced diet. And so it's very easy to not get those essential nutrients. And that's where keto or any diet can go wrong. Like, I don't care what diet you're on, but for example, you know, calcium is like, I recently just, you know, been working through like calcium deficiencies with a lot of my clients. And I'm like, I don't care on what diet you are on, but you need to get your calcium, and let's figure out where you can get it, because there is no magic. Like, we figured out that human beings need calcium. So even if you believe that vegan diet is some magic diet, that you still need to get your calcium. And if it's not in your food, then you're not getting it. Like, there is no magic.
Yeah, and you know what? Not just calcium or I mean, I had this happen to me twice in my life, and luckily I even had a nutrition coach at the time who couldn't figure it out. Not you. A random nutrition coach. That's why it's really important who you choose as your nutrition coach, guys. But I had a deficiency in iron, and I didn't understand why, because I eat a lot of greens. I wake up to a green smoothie, and I love my green smoothies. I can even live off green smoothies the whole time. And I had deficiency in iron. Now, one thing a lot of people know about me, since we were in Greenwich, in Yumzi, is I'm also addicted to matcha. And matcha is very high zinc. Now, what I didn't know is that I was getting the right amount of iron, but zinc, having too much zinc in your body, blocks the absorption of iron. And actually, they work almost against each other. And although my GP put me on iron pills, and although I was told I have to take more iron and you should start eating meat and this and that, then when I found out about the zinc element, I was like, what if I reduce my 4 matchas a day to just 1 matcha a day? And matcha is great for the health. And you just heard Angela saying you need zinc. But in my case, unfortunately, when my GP tested my zinc, it was extremely high. So when I reduced it to 1 matcha a day, I stopped the iron pills, I stopped everything. And a few months later, actually, my iron levels went back to normal. So it wasn't the lack of iron in my diet, it was the zinc and how it interacted with the iron. Same with calcium. So at one point, I have great calcium intake in my diet. Spinach and the almonds and everything I eat. But at the same time, unfortunately, I was starting to get like almost calcification in my bones, and I didn't know why. And then my GP said, you need vitamin D. Everybody is deficient in vitamin D. And they gave me a lot of vitamin D pills, but still nothing was changing. And we got to the point where they were saying they need to operate on my hand. It was that bad. And then I went back to the same person who opened my eyes to the zinc thing. And he's actually a great friend of ours, and we tag him a lot as well, Andre. And Andre, thanks for every single piece of advice you gave me. He's a kinologist, people who help you move and look at your body from a nutrition and movement point and everything. And we'll tag you down at this as well, Andre. And he was the one who said to me, but what's the point of having good calcium and good vitamin D if you're not taking any vitamin K in your diet?
Yeah.
And I just took vitamin K for 2 weeks, and I was booked for surgery, and I turned up and I went like this to the surgeon. And the surgeon was shocked. He was just looking and he said to me, what did you do? And I said, well, let me explain to you. I just added vitamin K to my diet. I started to look out for it. I started to take it more. And until this day, whenever I see the surgeon, because I still go to the same hospital, whenever I see the surgeon in passing or something, he looks at me and he goes like, one of my students is doing a PhD in what you said now. So it really depends what you put in your body, but it also depends how different things interact with each other. You could be eating everything right, but maybe you're eating more of something. Like I was having more matcha. This is my first today and my last one, I promise. Like I was having more matcha, and although it's great and full of antioxidants and this and that, in my case, I overdid it and it was blocking my iron absorption. So, and that's something a coach would tell you, a good coach would, like Angela would tell you straight away, or like Andre in my case, although he doesn't claim to be a nutrition coach and he doesn't go into that field, but he solved for me that problem twice, once with calcium and vitamin D and once with the zinc and iron. So, So,
by the way, on a side note, K2, the vitamin that needs
K2,
to activate calcium and fat-soluble vitamins like D, natto, fermented, especially fermented soybean haddock.
At that time, I was off soy because I was having allergic reactions and I didn't know from what. But now I totally agree with that. Now I know.
If people want to get more K2 and they're okay with soy, that's the product. You need like 5 grams of it per day to get all that.
Only.
It's the highest in K2.
So guys, eat your soya, just not the ones that are modified.
But you are exactly right. Those details, they
you need
matter.
Someone to navigate all of this, because unless you know nutrition, there's no way you'll navigate it yourself.
Yeah, there is just nutrition. I think the confusion comes from the fact that we all eat food every day and we think we understand it.
And we think I'm eating healthy, so I'm not doing anything wrong. But sometimes too much healthy can cause problems.
Exactly. And that's why there is no such thing as healthy. We need to look over, holistically on a whole lifestyle and diet and the person. Are you an athlete? Are you sitting in the office 24 hours? Almost. So who are you, and what are the other foods and lifestyle factors that we need to take all of this into account to say this can be healthy for you or not.
Definitely. So guys, it's not just the negatives of keto diet, it's the negative of any diet if you do it wrong and you don't do it right. We'll go back to our live comments. We have another question. Zar, we love your comment. We got a comment saying Angela is the man. Woo! Yes, she is so good at what she does. You should totally get in touch with her. Another question, based on experience, how easy would you say is it for people to walk out of bad dietary habits? Are there any tricks to help? MC, that's a really good question.
Walk out of bad dietary habits. So
based on your experience, how easy is it for people to stop their bad dietary habits or slowly walk out of them? We don't want them stopping overnight like I did with the acid alkaline diet. And are there any tricks to help?
There are two main things that make eating habits difficult. One, environment. Second one, emotions.
You mentioned
we talked about
earlier,
emotions. The more emotional attachments or triggers people have for food, the harder it's going to be for them to go away from them, and they need to work through that emotional pattern before they can address the food. And a lot of times the bad food habit will just fall off once you address that. The second one is environment. If you, for example, in a household, maybe in your family or something, and you decide to change your habit, there are a few people involved, right? The people that love their foods, they might be attached to their foods and their eating habits. And you changing that may actually be a threat to them. They may perceive it a threat, even though they might not think about it. But that's what internally going to be, for them, it's going to feel like. And so, they can go against you, and that can make harder for you to change your eating habits. Or if somebody just eats, the foods around you that you're trying to quit, the brain,
it's
the
really
more you
challenging.
see it, the more you expose your brain to something, the more you're going to think about it, the more you're going to act on that.
It's like trying to quit smoking, but being in a room full of smokers.
Exactly.
It's difficult. And I've experienced that myself. I've had flatmates who are extremely helpful, and flatmates that were very different in their way of eating, and they would try to push it on you as well.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's environment is a huge thing. And it's not just people, it's also things in your household. When I work with someone, I always say that if you want to make your transition faster, make sure that in your apartment, in your house, there is nothing reminding you of your old habits.
Yeah.
Like remove, I don't know, give it to someone, throw
Get
away.
rid of it.
Whatever you don't want to be eating, don't save it for some time. You're going to eat it sooner if you leave it there. That's a guarantee. Also, what I recommend, go to different stores to shop for food. You'd be surprised how many triggers in the place where you shop you have to certain food habits. When I travel a lot as a digital nomad, I work online and I live in different places. And so whenever I go to different places, it's going to be so easy for me to adapt any diet because I have no habits in that new place. And so every place is new. And so if I decide to go, let's say, plant-based or keto, and I just, start building my habits around these foods.
Yeah.
And there is new supermarkets, there are new, cafes or restaurants. I put certain foods in my house and there is nothing else, right?
Yeah.
So environment supports my new habit. And there is nothing reminding me of my old habit. So the same for people, if you want to change in your habits and you finding it difficult, maybe every time you go shopping, you buy the same foods that you want to stop eating, go to a different shop, see how it works for you.
Yeah.
Because at that shop, you don't even know where your foods are.
Or go in with a shopping list before you step into the shop.
Yeah.
And that way, I'm only sticking to this. I'm not going for anything else.
And, to that advice, we know from neuroscience, for example, that people make the best decisions in the morning, right? So when people are struggling with eating habits, I'm like, okay, where do you shop for food? Where do you usually eat your foods that you're trying to stop? People are like, usually at night, usually after work, I stop by the store and I, even without thinking it, I get this, I don't know, roll, like sausage roll or whatever that might be. I'm like, well, let's not shop in the evening.
When you're decision depleted.
Yeah, exactly. When you're stressed already. So let's shop only in the morning. That's going to be our rule. And a lot of times people stop eating right away. All these foods, stop buying them and eating because they're like, in the morning they wake up like, okay, I'm going to do this. So they shop, they do everything right. And at night, they don't go to any store. They didn't make any food decisions and it flows. And as soon as they go to that store, if we early in the process, the same thing happens. They're going to buy something that they don't want to buy. That's how powerful.
Definitely.
So yeah, this is just a couple of things.
By the end of the day, you've been tired from your boss. You've been tired from work. You've been decision depleted. This, that. So it does make a huge difference.
Yeah,
if you do it in the morning or evening.
And that's why I always also say, don't ever make decisions at night about food. Don't what happens to a lot of busy people, at the end of your day, you don't have time to cook. You want to order something and you start thinking, what should I order? Well, at this point, the brain will give you the worst possible answer because you're depleted, you have no energy, you're stressed. You're going to just want to eat some, I don't know, junk or whatever.
Something that will make you feel happy.
Yeah,
chocolate.
exactly. But if you decided in advance that I'm going to order, for example, I don't know, some poke bowl with some, I don't know, fish and vegetables, and maybe you even pre-ordered it for a certain time, then that's it. There is no decision. You're just going to eat it because you don't want to make any additional decisions, no matter what decisions those are. And that also solves the problem for many people. Just no food decisions at night. And that's it.
Yeah. Before we started Yomzi, I used to be in the corporate world, and I love my routine. So I remember I used to do my meals in advance. Like on Monday, I would make a salad that would last for the whole week. And I would have that for certain meals of the day. I used to have 5 meals at the time. And then, for example, on Tuesday, I would make something like fish curry. And again, I would split it up for the rest of the week. So that's my lunch for every day of that week. And then on Wednesday, I would make another meal that would be for the other days of the week. And by the end of by Sunday, for example, I have 5 nice meals that have been cooked throughout the week.
Yeah, and then
and I just keep adding. Yeah. And it's much easier not to make mistakes like that, because even my shopping list, I would plan it from like Sunday morning. I go do the shopping and that's it. I don't need to worry about it. But then obviously as a consultant, I used to travel a lot, and I had to learn what you were saying, as in be attached to certain things, be detached from certain things. It's easier when it's a new country, because I know, you know what, all countries have lettuce. I'm going to go buy lettuce. That's not going to be a challenge. But for example, my favorite brand of chocolate, not that I ever had a favorite brand of chocolate, but my favorite, for example, this or that, yeah, that's difficult. And in a new country, it's almost a good thing to break that kind of bad habit.
Exactly.
So,
although sometimes, you find easily like things like McDonald's that is everywhere, and then the rest of the
yeah, I
things are a
haven't
little bit more
stepped into
challenging.
McDonald's in like since I was 18. So yeah, over 20 years. I haven't stepped into McDonald's.
The main point is, make decisions, make plan, make good plans in advance. And also, if you want your brain to think more about healthy habits, healthy eating habits, sign up, subscribe for some Instagram, YouTube channels, and watch that stuff. Because the more you watch it, the more you see people talking about
You
it. It's
become
like,
what
this
you're
is the real
surrounded
thing.
with.
Exactly. So
Definitely.
maybe put some pictures on your fridge. I don't know. Put some picture of that ideal meal, or foods that you're gonna eat.
Yeah.
And the more your brain sees it, the more it's gonna be like in your subconscious, and you're gonna start making better decisions.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Emotions and environment and planning.
And obviously know yourself, because knowing yourself will help you succeed even better.
Definitely.
Awesome. And another question: is it true that keto can affect the kidneys and liver in the long run? So is it true that keto can affect the kidneys and liver in the long run?
No diet will affect any specific organ by itself. Like, it's the way you do it. You see, like there is too much of good thing, like you said. So it's not about kidneys or not about keto affecting kidneys or liver. It's about how you do it. Do you have a balance, a balanced meal plan for keto? Also, how's your liver and kidneys in the first place? It's one thing to advise, someone totally healthy to eat high protein diet. It's another thing to advise someone who already has, problems with their kidneys for one reason or the other. The same thing with liver. If somebody was abusing their liver for their whole life, I don't know, with some processed foods, and then they go keto, they might go anything and they're going to hurt their liver.
They might drink water or eat a lettuce and hurt their liver.
Exactly. So liver produces bile that that is needed to digest fats, right? So there is going to be more demand for that bile, because you're going to be eating more fats in your diet on a keto diet, right? From that perspective, it just means that your liver going to work more than compared to someone who's going to eat less amount of fat. Because that just mechanics of it. Like when you eat more fat, your liver, your fat digesting organs will have to work harder. But again, if somebody is healthy, have healthy liver, not going to an issue for them. Like, you're probably going to have diarrhea more than before your liver fails, But for somebody whose liver already like compromised, might be an issue. But then again, anything might be an issue, not just keto.
And I think it's what you said initially also about the quality of what they eat. Because, for example, we've had this discussion with one of our customers before, and she was saying she doesn't even have a gallbladder. It's been removed. And then she was advised in Sweden, she's not in the UK, she was advised by her doctor in Sweden to go keto. And she was saying, I don't understand. I don't even have a gallbladder. How do they want me to go on keto? I don't have something to digest the fat as much as other people do. And I explained to her, like, if you eat an avocado, does it make you sick? And she said, no, it doesn't. I said, okay, what makes you sick? And she was saying exactly what we were over-exaggerating about. She was saying, if I eat cheese, or if I eat bacon, or if I eat something like that, I feel horrible. And I was saying, well, that's exactly my point. It depends on the kind of fat you're eating, because your body needs fat. We all know that. You hear about essential fats, essential proteins. You don't hear about essential carbs. So your body does need the fat, and it needs it to function, hormones, everything. So I was explaining it's really the quality and what type of fat you're eating rather than, and that's why when you mentioned the liver, I was like, yeah, true. But also, and you agree with this probably, also someone could have a perfectly healthy liver and they could be having a lot of alcohol, for example. And even then keto is not going to help them. Someone could be having a very bad liver. like our customer, she went keto based on her doctor's advice. And in Sweden and Northern European countries, they're very much on, like, they understand the benefits of different diets and the downfalls. And she was told exactly what to eat and so on. And after a few months, she was saying she feels as good as she did before having to have her gallbladder removed and everything. So in that case, yes, healthy fats do help, but it really depends what kind of fat as well. You don't want to end up eating fried bacon and this and that, and then say, oh, keto is giving me kidney damage. I'm sorry, even if you didn't do keto and you were eating this stuff, you will have kidney damage regardless, and liver damage.
And you know what you pointed out, it's very important to monitor your data. Like,
Definitely.
never go just religiously into anything.
Definitely.
Like, if you eat something, any diet, and it makes you feel like shit, then don't eat this
Definitely,
diet.
yeah.
You know, like, or for example, also that's why it's important to check your data sometimes, meaning your blood work, like, you know, once a year or so, check it. Are you deficient or something or not? Of course, the first, if you already start, you know, seeing some symptoms, negative symptoms in your health, like maybe your energy levels, maybe something appears on your skin, you know, whatever that might be.
Mood swings,
yeah,
for some
exactly.
people,
Then for sure you want to check that. But a lot of things might take time to develop. Like, you know, I was vegan for about 4 years, 100%. But I did not do it in the right way. And by the end of it, I had a lot of cravings, mood swings, my hair, my like skin, my period were all started to suffer. And again, it was not because, you know, like plant-based diet is bad. It's because the way I was doing it wasn't good. And the body started to show me the signs only like after 4 years.
Of course.
Because also the younger you are, it takes longer for damage to appear.
And the body will try to balance itself. So it will take nutrients from your skin, and then you get skin problems, and then it will try to take it from the bones, and it will try to balance itself without complaining. But by the point it complains, it means you really need to do something, because it's been going on for a long time.
Exactly. And that also another point, you know, even data is not perfect. That's why, you know, you also need all points of like your food journal, how you feel, but also your blood work, because sometimes, as you said, like calcium is that important for the body to function, because it needs, you know, for neurons to communicate, for muscles to contract, and heart is also a muscle. It's so important that the body will take it from your bones and put it into your blood. And even at this point, it's very difficult to actually diagnose calcium deficiency, even if you eat zero calcium, because the body will take the calcium from bones to make your heart and
make it work.
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
And that's why, again, data is king and queen, and you need to gather as much data as possible. At least, like, you know, do some checkup once a year.
I think also, I mean, as important as the data is, and my background is data and analytics, but I think as important as the data is, it's really important what you do with it. For example, someone might get their data from the doctor, like when I was told, oh, you have good calcium, but I was having these problems with my joints, or when I was told, oh, you're iron deficient, here's a lot of iron, but it didn't help. So I had the data, but I didn't have the insight or what to do with it. And that was the missing piece. And that's where someone like you, or someone like our friend Andre, who helped me at that time, steps in and actually really helps make you realize, so this is the data. What do I do with it? It's almost like being told, okay, you drive a car by switching on the key and just going on, but you need someone with experience to tell you, no, you need to look here, you need to do this, you need to press while you're changing gear, and you need to do this, and then you have the data and you know what to do with it, and then you can go on a safe journey.
I like a lot of my clients, you know, these days they would come to me with like, I have a DNA test, I have biome test, so I analyze.
There's so much data out there. It's what you do with it.
Okay, I have this data. They're like 30 pages in each report. Like, figure out what to do with this. That's a lot of my clients would, you know, especially a lot of my clients work in tech and finance. They're very like brain, you know, oriented people. So like, this is all the data, but what do I do with it and how I do it exactly?
And that's where you can give them the insight.
Yeah, and you know, the thing about like me, I also don't know everything 100%. Nobody knows everything, you know, 100%. If some people claim I know everything, like it means they don't know much. But but what I can do, I can make better guesses based on all the data
and research as well.
Exactly, because I worked with people. I, you know, had an education, and I have experience, and that's why when I give you a tool to try, it's going to be a much better rate of success than if you just Google
Definitely.
something. And then whether it's going to work or not, we still have to see. But there is, it's going to save you much more time and effort.
Definitely. And less mistakes, because you've
Yeah.
seen this work before, you've done it with other people, and you have the expertise in it.
Exactly. It's like, it took me probably a decade of my life to figure things out, just because I was doing it on my own. There was not much data available, since I was a teenager and I had an autoimmune condition. I had to figure it all out. Nobody knew what to do, and so I had to try. And it took me many, many years,
Of course.
And then I got educated, got education, and everything, it got better. But what I'm trying to say is, you, like a person like myself or any other coach in any other area, it can save a person like decades of their life, and they can move so much faster. And so, that's why I'm passionate about coaching, not just my coaching, but also like business or any sort of area where you want to improve. Just
you won't live long enough to do all the mistakes and learn all the learnings. You need to use other people's expertise as well. Definitely. So we did go a little bit away from that question, but Zar here is saying it was a great question to ask, and very useful. Right. Don't make decisions at the right. Yeah, definitely. I'll make a poster. See, he's gonna write it on the wall already, and.
Don't go shopping late at night. That's
definitely
struggling.
Definitely. And also, wow, this is really good advice you gave. People are just writing notes about it. And what is this lady saying? Really enjoying the discussion. Great. Well, guys, keep the live comments coming in. Keep the live questions coming in. We're going to move to our next question. And so who shouldn't do keto? We kind of looked at this, but just like who shouldn't do keto, if anyone shouldn't. But yeah,
I don't think there is like a specific kind of person who shouldn't do keto. I guess what I would advise, if somebody has health problems with their digestive system, any digestive organ, be that their microbiome, their stomach acid, their liver, their pancreas, kidneys, go slow. And be careful and check the data. Check your, how your organs work. If you already have a condition, check more often on that. Have some doctor to advise you on the condition, of that thing that you already have. So be careful if you already, again, have pre-existing conditions. And if you don't, still go slow and have some sort of data that you're going to measure that will help you to evaluate. Are you doing better? Are you doing worse?
Yeah.
Like, you gotta have something, maybe a journal. Sometimes I give my clients food and feel journal, meaning they eat certain meal, they write down how they feel, and right after that, an hour after that, right? So, and they do it every time, and then we usually see the pattern. So whenever you start a new diet, do at least this, because your energy levels, your like anxieties, like your digestion, it will probably tell you like at least part of the story, like whether that's working for you or not working for you. So and again, for keto or any other diet, there is no specific person who shouldn't do it, unless if you
I thought someone without a gallbladder shouldn't do it, but that customer proved me wrong. And I realized a lot of people are actually doing it without a gallbladder.
Yeah, you said the body very often can find like a walk around of something that you do. It might not be optimal, but it will. So again, that's why it's important to figure out what's the best data to monitor. But then like keto, I guess it's not as detrimental, especially if done right, as something like high carbohydrate diet with a lot of processed carbohydrates. What I mean, for example, because somebody can
we call it the beige menu because everything looks beige.
but that can be a more deadly mistake. Like if somebody has problems with their blood sugar, let's say they eat a lot of processed carbohydrates, that's gonna spike blood sugar, or they might eat something that spike and then make it go really low. That can actually be deadly, because that can happen in a nanosecond. Like your blood sugar goes down and you're dead. That's so if somebody has like a pathology, something with their blood sugar, from that perspective,
or epilepsy, people with epilepsy, for them, actually, it's well proven scientifically that keto can stop or reduce a lot of their attacks.
But that's what I'm saying. Like fat, it takes time to digest, so it's not as like acute effect as something like processed carbohydrates can have.
Exactly.
Like drink a liter of soda, and that's probably, especially for someone who's like already problems with blood sugar, will like send it
Yeah.
sky high, and then like, so yeah, when it comes to keto, it works slowly. So just monitor your data and see if it's working for you or not. Yeah,
Definitely. So, great answer, by the way.
thank you.
So is keto bad long term? You're looking at me because you know I've done it for long.
I did it for 6 years. I'm not keto now, but I
Okay.
did it for 6 years. And long term, it can work. For some people, it cannot work for other people. For 6 years, yeah, I was fine, but then I noticed that, well, I actually then measured my thyroid hormone went lower, and I noticed that, like, for each person is individual, but I noticed that I
Definitely.
looked older than I know I could look. Like, I don't know how to explain, but I look myself in the
I
mirror.
don't believe
No,
it.
not now, you know, but when I was going keto
Yeah.
for 6 years, I'm like, I look at myself, I'm like, it's not like something doesn't feel right. You know, it wasn't
Right.
like I was
Maybe for
having,
your
yeah,
body it wasn't
yeah.
agreeing with it.
And
Yeah.
I started to put on weight actually, because of that.
Hold
But
on. Were you eating the whole fried cheese and fried bacon stuff?
no, but I was just eating too much, and I was
Right.
overeating often, especially on things like nut butters. And the reason, I think,
Right.
because my body was not getting, certain things. Maybe I did need carbohydrates for me to function properly, for my hormones. And so I would have those cravings when I felt like I needed to eat a lot. And I'm like, okay, well, this has been happening for like a few months now, so something isn't working. So let me see how I do with more carbohydrates in my diet. And specifically, I think like fiber content was really not where it needed to be. And so I introduced more carbohydrates, and I realized that I'm actually functioning better on a more balanced approach when I have, whole food carbohydrates, about like 150 grams a day, like with but with fiber, it's all slow carbohydrates.
Yeah.
I don't need any processed carbohydrates. I don't think it's a good idea for anyone personally. So I added that, and my athletic performance, the way my brain works, my productivity, it all went back to like really high level. Whereas after 6 years keto, I noticed that at night it was really hard for me to work through anything that required a lot of mental effort.
Really?
Brain is the
Definitely.
the hungriest organ for blood sugar. Well, maybe after muscles, if you have a lot of it. But yeah, after that, brain, it really loves like carbohydrates and glucose. And so if for the body it's hard to make a lot of it, the brain might experience those moments when you just feel like, like it's harder to push through mental work. And so because of that, I'm like, okay, let's try this. And yeah, it works better. Like, I'm super bad with refined carbohydrates, meaning anxieties, my energy levels, my weight, I would gain it when I introduce those. But whole food carbohydrates, they work totally fine. And I can naturally balance them in my diet without having to think about it.
And I think that's really important for people to distinguish that not all carbohydrates are the same. So people think, oh, if you're on keto, you're not eating any carbohydrates. Well, no, that's not true. I'm keto. I've been keto for almost 15, 20 years now. And I'll be honest, I do eat carbohydrates because even almond flour has 7 grams of carbohydrate per 100 grams. And even coconut yogurt has carbohydrates. Yes, much lower than a normal yogurt. Yes, I go for like unsweetened almond milk or soya milk or coconut milk. But at the end of the day, there is nothing called no carbohydrates. So yes, vegetable has carbohydrates, and I eat a lot of broccoli. I love broccoli. I love my vegetables. I'm not compromising on that. But the difference is based on the body type. How much does each person need in carbohydrates? So, for example, Angela just said she has over 100 grams of carbohydrate per day, and that works for her. For me, I hear people doing keto and saying they take 50 grams of carbohydrate, and they struggle to meet that. Some days I have 15 grams of carbohydrate as a total. And I don't struggle with that because my body, I'm not the type, I'm not as athletic as Angela. I'm not always doing the athletic stuff and so on. And I do have a bit of reserve as well. So my body will happily take the fat and convert it to carbohydrates, glucose for my organs to use. But it really depends. So is keto bad long term? I think it depends on your body type, what your health goals are. So for me as a type 1 diabetic, and I'm doing keto the right way. I don't use any sweeteners like maltitol. I don't touch sweeteners like saccharin and aspartame, which would kill my gut health. I don't use any of these nasty sweeteners, which hey, they're keto now in this minute, but 10 years from now they're going to give me, God forbid, cancer or something else, or ruin my gut health. So I don't use any of these sweeteners, and I do use vegetables. I do use not root vegetables, but I eat all other vegetables really. I do enjoy eating plant-based things and so on that are not high carb. Yes, my intake is under 20 grams of carb per day. So for some people, this is like strictly keto. I don't see it that I'm keto dieting long-term. I see it, this is my lifestyle. I try to combine keto with alkaline and try to make it work. And for someone else, this might not work, but for some of you, this might work. For someone with epilepsy, they need to do keto. Otherwise, the other options are far worse. I mean, medication can help, but not as much as epilepsy or so on. Not as much as keto as a lifestyle. So it really depends. We've seen a lot of people with inflammations that went on a keto diet. We've seen a lot of people even with cancer that do keto to try and reverse some of the effects or even help with their treatments that they're going through. So it really depends. If you think about it as a diet, I think that's almost a guarantee you're going to fail sooner or later, because your brain doesn't like diets. You yo-yo in and out, and it's too extreme. But if you think about it as a lifestyle, instead of saying, oh, I will eat less carbs, just as Angela said earlier, try to remove all the biscuits from the cupboard in the kitchen and don't have the temptation around you. Try to remove all the refined carbs. And again, let me emphasize, being keto doesn't mean you have no carbs, because even cheese has carbs, guys. So let's be realistic about it. Broccoli has carbs. Everything has carbs. It's a question of what carbs are you putting in your body, what quantities, and do you need it? For example, if I eat 100 grams of carb like Angela does, I'm going to be 3 times my size, and I don't need it. And it's just wrong to put all of this in my body. Also, if Angela decides I'm going to go refined carbs and I'm going to eat biscuits, croissants, and all of this.
Yeah, I'm going to put on 10 Ks in 1 week.
Exactly. So it really depends. Not all carbs should be treated the same way as fat. Not all fat should be treated the same or objectified in the same way. But at the same time, what does your body need? And yeah, that's something for you to work on, or for you to work on with your nutritionist.
Okay, on that point, like going overboard, fat can also make people fat. I had clients who were putting on fat on keto diet, because like, I sometimes could eat like a whole jar of almond butter, but like no matter how keto you are, how less carbs you have, this is a lot of calories. And
definitely,
if you eat on like
actually it's double the calories of protein and carbohydrates.
Oh yeah, fat has 9 calories compared to 4 in protein and carbs. But yeah, exactly. Like keto is not a panacea. Like a lot of people think, or I'll just remove carbs and I'll just eat all I want and I'm going to start losing weight. When it comes to weight loss, calories do matter. There are the mechanisms in the body. Of course, food quality matters and everything, but they still do matter.
Definitely. And that's why the term garbage calories and healthy calories has been used a lot, because you get someone who's saying, oh yeah, I'm doing keto, let me eat this bacon. But what is it giving your body? And you have somebody else saying, oh yeah, I'm doing keto, I'm going to have a teaspoon of hazelnut butter and maybe I will have it on, I don't know, on the side with, I don't know, a nice cup of healthy milk of some sort or another. So so it really makes a difference what kind of calories we put in our bodies. Definitely.
Yeah, that's universal for any kind of diet.
Definitely. Cool. So we're going to go to the next question. And how many carbs is too low or too high?
No,
we touched on that, but go for it again, please.
Just like with any other nutrient, it's personal. It's personalized. It's got to be personalized. For carbohydrates, as you mentioned, I'm a very athletic person. I work out at least an hour a day. Plus, I walk about like 2 hours every day. Plus, I work mentally. I know that my brain, my body, they consume a lot of carbohydrates. Especially if you're trying to build a muscle. You can have some professional athletes can eat 200, 250 grams of carbs and still be in ketosis. Just because if you bike for 4-6 hours a day, your muscles will suck it in, and you're going to have no carbohydrates left in your bloodstream, and you're still going to be in ketosis. So carbohydrates tolerance and need is very like individual. It also will depend again, like how efficient your muscles are, you know, in metabolizing
Your genetic
your brain,
makeup
your
as well.
genetics, your gut
Yeah.
microbiome, everything. It's very, very individual. And the basic guideline for that is like, okay, so what is you trying to do here? Like, are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to be more athletic? Are you trying to have like better energy levels? Figure out what you're gonna like optimize, and then try different amounts, different foods, and see whether that's improving or that's getting worse.
Yeah,
And based on that, you know, you can see. Like for me also, like as an example, not all carbohydrates work. As I said, like things like beans work really well. Those are really slow carbohydrates. Grains, I do not eat any grains. They just don't work for me. I start overeating. I start putting on weight. I start having anxieties, health, gut issues.
Yeah.
So it depends on the food also.
And although not many, like, I mean, okay, a lot of people are intolerant to gluten, but also it's been scientifically proven that gluten is an inflammatory thing. So even if you're not intolerant to it, it will still cause the body inflammation long term. So for a lot of people, they avoid grains, even if they eat carbohydrates and they're not keto.
Yeah.
They just avoid anything like gluten. And yeah,
because also, and another thing,
I mean, gluten is a protein, guys. It's not a carbohydrate, just to
Yeah,
point
yeah.
out. But unfortunately, it is used a lot in many products.
And another thing that I think from my, you know, side, I'd like to add to any sorts of dietary approaches. It matters. Two things matters: how you prepare your foods, how they are prepared for you if you're not the one who cooked them. Because a lot of people can experience a lot of problems with, let's say, beans that I absolutely love. But it matters whether you soak them and you cook them really well before
Or
that.
live beans.
Living
beans. What are they called? The ones that you actually sprouting
sprouts.
beans.
Whether you sprout them or you just got them from, I don't know, some place that barely cook them, and they have a lot of anti-nutrients and things that's going to disturb your gut bacteria and raise your blood sugar, you know, and create like gasiness. So it matters how you cook things, anything.
Definitely.
And the second thing, you know, I just actually was talking to like a follower of mine on Instagram. She loved my article about food combining. Because it's so important. You know, it's one thing when you, let's say, have your I don't know, sweet potatoes with some vegetables on the side. It's another thing when you have it with steak, because, you know, one requires really like acidic environment and one sort of one set of enzymes, digestive enzymes. Sweet potato will require completely different, you know, it's very alkaline food. The body needs a more alkaline environment to digest it, and different enzymes. And when you put it together, the body is like trying to figure out, what do I do first? While, you know, you're digesting one thing, the other is kind of like sits there starting to, God knows what's happening. You know, we don't
fermenting
really
in your body.
Exactly. And so I'm always trying to emphasize, the body is not a bean. It's not an oven where you throw things and it just burns. It deals with it. It's not you know, a garbage can or like some sort of like,
that's very true,
burner. You gotta learn like how to combine things so they work together. And there are, you know, books written that, I'm not even an expert on that, but I, you know, give people some like simple guidance around like what foods, try these combinations instead of that. And maybe there was not the carb that was causing problem. Maybe that's because you ate it with this steak that was the problem. So those two things, you know, get food combining and what was that one? The preparation, the food, the cooking of the food.
Definitely. That's a very good point there.
And Julie, if you don't mind, we can just one more question.
Go for it.
I gotta go. No, after that, I gotta go wakeboarding. So if we could wrap it up and maybe do round 2 next weekend or the weekend after that.
No, that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Just let me choose the question, because we have a lot of questions, guys, and we will do them in the future again. And
we can also answer them. You know, if you send them to me, we could maybe compile some
we can do some stories about it, and people can see the questions they asked. Would you like to choose a question based on we have so many questions. Would you like to choose one? And you can choose the one that you think is best to answer.
Choose you know, because I always say that like people who interact with you always have the best questions, because like what's in my head is completely like predicated on my education and like knowledge and everything, and you just have more real life questions.
So these are all good questions, guys. Wow. And so I think there are a few questions here that I can summarize into one question. they're all asking different things about, and again, there are different questions, but I will combine the ones that I see are relevant into one question. And the question is, top ingredients to give up, top ingredients to include in my diet. And the last part of the question is, if I'm really busy, what are the tips or tricks you can give me to like have quick wins? Sorry, I made it into 3 questions there, but I summarized everything.
And the easy things to
do,
like,
so 3 things to introduce, 3 things to give up, and maybe 3 tips or tricks to
okay, let's start with give up. Processed carbohydrates and added sugars, that's I consider one ingredient. So meaning everything, any kind of sugar or carbohydrate that is not in a whole food package, really not good idea to include into anyone's diet. And we just have more and more data, confirming the negative effects of processed carbohydrates. Oxidized and industrial fats, meaning the fats that you cannot make at home, that only can be made in a factory and that are added to all the processed foods. Like, for example, what I mean by that, olives, you can squeeze the fat with your hand, you cannot really, or, simple processing can be required, like almond butter, you can use your food processor and make it. Things like cottonseed oil, soybean oil, a lot of those processed oils, you need a factory to make them. So the trick part about this, of course, is it's in most takeouts, most restaurants meals. So whenever you eat out, you're probably going to be getting some of that, and they're highly prime.
Not in Yumzy, guys. Not in Yumzy.
Yeah, that's what I love about you. But most bakeries, takeouts, everything, they use it because it's cheap. That's the only reason why they use it. So processed sugars, carbohydrates, and probably the third one I would add is processed foods in general. Try to stick with whole foods, meals made of whole foods of different kinds as much as possible, and away from anything that was, I don't know, made into flours, squeezed, made into some, anything that looks refined, that is not whole foods. And then all the novel ingredients that they put into that. So if you read an ingredient list and you don't understand what the hell that all is, and there's
why
too
it's
much,
even there.
like, why there is so much. If I buy, let's say, I don't know, what could you buy? Like for example, you buy canned beans, and besides beans and water, there are like 3 other ingredients. I'm like I'm not eating that. So what
exactly
is it,
same you tried our Yumtella, so it only had 5 ingredients compared to other chocolate spreads that have I read chocolate spread ingredients and I'm like, why do they need all of this in there? Just it's chocolate, hazelnut, and something to make it sweeter but safe. What's wrong with people?
So those are 3 things, but you can see the trend. Anything processed that was introduced into our food supply quite recently, our body is not adapted to any processed foods. That is a bad idea. And most takeouts, most restaurants will have ingredients and things you don't want to have there. That's why,
unfortunately,
takeout.
Not us, guys, not Yumzy, but
I check the ingredients, so that's good. So 3 things, those are 3 things to quit: processed carbohydrates, those added factory industrial fats, and processed foods in general. 3 things to introduce. I'm not going to be diet specific because that's everyone can choose their own way of eating. One thing, we talked about calcium. I think that for most people, dairy products, fermented dairy products, things like natural yogurt, natural kefir, there are other fermented products. I would introduce that, because otherwise, where are you getting your calcium? Unless you're supplementing, unless you really know, that your diet is really balanced, I would introduce that. Also for B vitamins, B12, B2, the A, D, they're depending on the dairy product. So I would introduce that. The second thing, I would introduce actually beans. If somebody is not on a strict keto diet, maybe a reduced carbohydrate diet, or they don't care about carbohydrates at all. Beans, just because they have per serving the most amount of prebiotic fiber that our guts eat. So I give you an example. About 100 grams of cooked beans, not the dry ones, would have about, I think, 7 grams of fiber.
Oh, wow.
That's a lot, per small serving. And also all the carbohydrates that are in beans, there are no sugars, not even added, but not, there's 0 point something. And they're very slow. So for anyone who watches their blood sugar, the carbohydrates from beans going to be released really, really slow, like over long term. And they're going to also make people feel full for much, much longer. The reason why I'm so also like passionate about beans is because they have a lot of plant-based proteins or amino acids, the highest per calorie among like plant-based foods, and vitamins and minerals in general. Like the profile is very rich. That's why maybe a lot of centenarians, people who live to 100 and more, they have beans in their diet in one form or the other. It's a very like nutrient dense foods and really good for gut microbiome. And so again, fermented dairy, beans, and the third one, if you were to ask me, I would probably introduce fatty fish, like sardines, well, I'm actually, debating with myself whether that's, sardines or greens, but probably sardines because they have those omega-3 fatty acids that we need for our eyesight, for our brain, for our heart health. And they are also essential for, for general health, anti-inflammatory, for developing kids also. And most people just don't eat it for one reason or the other. Like people quite like salmon, but, I would go for sardines with bones and skin with a lot of those like different nutrients. So yeah, but if I were to add fourth, I would add green vegetables. So
okay. Sure. Oh, but it's interesting you put green vegetables after the
that's what I'm like debating because, well, green vegetables, you can get a lot of nutrients in green vegetables from all the other foods that I mentioned. But
I'll be honest, I don't eat any of the other three categories you mentioned.
But yeah,
I do eat green vegetables.
But they do have a lot of like, so yeah, I would.
But I think it also what you eat.
Yeah,
because for a lot of people, it's very different as well, quality wise.
Green vegetables, you're right, they're up there for sure, and they're least caloric and have all these nutrients and minerals from iron to vitamin A to C to zinc and all this, depending on the vegetable, of course. So yeah, those I would put 4 probably.
Awesome. And the last part of the question, I promise, is quick wins or easy things someone can do to actually reap benefits faster.
Reap benefits faster.
Have a healthier lifestyle or so on.
Eliminate those, processed foods, processed sugars, and oxidized fats. Like that's, if you can eliminate it today, you're going to
especially the oxidized fats. It's scary how every single food item we look at these days has oxidized fats.
Yeah, because they use them to preserve.
It's cheaper than using other fats.
It's cheaper. And shelf life, to make
like
longer.
Palm oil and
that's why they use them. Sometimes to add bulk, sometimes to
sunflower oil.
Exactly.
Oh,
and it just, they're in so many products and foods and takeout and restaurant that it's hard to remove. But also, added sugars. If somebody is removing added sugars, I want them to also check all the ingredient list for everything from canned beans to, I don't know, to everything. Like
even when you buy a lettuce, guy, just check it's made
sausage,
of lettuce.
You think like, why there is sugar
sausages
in sausage?
Are bad.
Yeah, it's there. It's because
I heard because I don't eat sausage, but I heard about 50% of the ingredients of sausage is not even meat.
Yeah,
it's scary.
Like natural sausages from some the butchers, they would be almost entirely meat, but not in the supermarket. So yeah, the added sugars and what they there more research came out recently from like neuroscience lab and research on gut health, and they say that even if you don't taste sugar in a product, but it's there, the gut will know that it's there, and you're going to be driven to eat more of that food because sugar evolutionarily is the substance that usually comes from foods that will give you a lot of energy, and that our species, we're always trying to survive, right? It's not the gut. It's okay. It seems to be a lot of energy, so eat more of that.
We don't need to hunt the energy anymore. It comes to us from a supermarket now.
But what I'm saying is, if sugar is there, it's going to be. I think
this also applies. Not saying this also applies to cheap sweeteners like saccharin, aspartame, and these kind of sweeteners, because when you have stevia, it's different. It's natural, and yes, it tastes sweet, but it's different. It's a healthier sweet. But aspartame and these things, they trigger the sugary cravings as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So stevia is also, it's an herb. A lot of people think it's a sweetener. It's actually not a sweetener. It's an herb that happens to have a sweet taste.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why it doesn't trigger a lot of like the same responses as, for example, different sweeteners or sugars would have. But yeah, so
amazing.
Process, if somebody wants to see a lot of benefits fast, those are things. Processed carbohydrates, added sugars, added fats, and processed foods in general.
Amazing.
And of course, if somebody, drinks alcohol, I would recommend start there.
Definitely. Angela, this has been so helpful. Guys, thank you for all the great questions that came during the live and after and before. As Angela said, we will put these as stories as well, just to make it easy for you to see the questions we couldn't answer directly on today's live. Angela, thank you so much. Anybody, if you need a nutrition coach, you need someone to help you get back in shape or just live healthier and better life, please check below and you'll find Angela's details. She has amazing advice and pieces of videos and everything on Instagram as well. So do follow her and have a great Sunday and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Yeah, thank you, Julie, for inviting me and making this happen.
You.
I truly this is my favorite thing, to answer questions. So guys, yeah, feel free to reach out on any social media where you find me and I'm going to answer a question. Sometimes I even answer questions with a piece of content. So reach out.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Angela. Have a great day, guys.
Yeah.